This program is brought to you by Allianz, your global partner for comprehensive insurance and asset management solutions.
Welcome to a new edition of Inside Grand Prix. Today, it's the European Grand Prix we focus on. But first, let's get to know this very special region in Germany. The west of Germany, with Belgium, Luxembourg, France and Holland almost on the doorstep. Home to Nurburgring Castle, landmark of the Eiffel. A hilly region renowned for its changeable, inclement weather. It's not uncommon here for the heavens to open, and battles in the rain are a regular event. The usual advice is, beware, slippery when wet.
Well, you can't control the weather, but yeah, at Nurburgring it can change very, very quickly, as we know. So we keep an eye on the forecast as the weekend comes along, as we do for every other race. And but we know that the forecast can be a lot more difficult to predict at this venue. So that can have an effect on the race instantaneously because of pit stops and all the different things which it can throw at us, which it does generally each year.
The Nurburgring circuit is ceremoniously open. After the turmoil of the Second World War, the Eiffel circuit quickly began to draw in the crowds. Fast cars and beautiful women. To see and be seen was popular even then. The North Loop and the temperamental weather gave the circuit a formidable reputation. World champion Jackie Stewart gave it its notorious name, the Green Hell. 1995, the first European Grand Prix, and it's a major hit straight away. Michael Schumacher wins, unleashing previously unfelt enthusiasm in Germany for Formula One, which remains unabated today. Basically, because Formula One has had a very high profile in Germany in recent years due to my brother, to Nick, and to the small part I've played. A lot of young drivers have been brought on, and so now, naturally, there are more German drivers on the market. At one time, it used to be the English, then it was the Brazilians, then the Italians. At the moment, it's the Germans. Let's see for how long. Michael Schumacher, the exceptional driver of recent years, is well known to feel at home in the rain, on the track and on the pitch. Talking of football, this being the year of the FIFA World Cup, Germany's in a great party mood, so the Grand Prix at the Nürburgring makes a perfect warm-up. The German Rookie of the Season has got football fever too. I find it an incredibly fascinating event, and I'd be over the moon if I was able to get to one of the games, preferably to one of Germany's. I'm a big fan of the team, so yes, I'd find that very exciting. For now, however, the goal is not the Golden World Cup, but the Silver Nürburgring Trophy. Tension, drama, and exciting duels year after year. The European Grand Prix guarantees a thrilling race. And this year too, the skies over the Eiffel will no doubt have a few surprises in store. Coming up, trust is good, certainty is better, race control. But first we're going to take a lap of the Nürburgring. Formula One in 2006, Race 5 in the heart of Europe and the west of Germany. Below Nürburgring Castle, the Nürburgring. Right after the start of this modern circuit, you reach the first chicane, dropping from almost 300 down to 90 kilometers an hour through the Castrol S.
It's very important that the car is stopping well over the bumps, downhill. The electronics working well, so the differential and everything to get you into the apex, and of course then you need a good traction to get out of there. So it's a very, very tricky corner to get right.
But also a good chance to overtake. Generally though, places on the ring where you can attack other cars are few and far between. It's thus vital to do well in qualifying and to have the right pit stop strategy. The wing setting is therefore half raised, the only way to arm the cars for the great mix of corners. 6 left, 8 right, some fast and wide, some narrow and sharp. Like Dunlop, where you brake down hard from 300 kilometers an hour, switching down the gears from 6th to 2nd. A really alluring hairpin chicane. The way it slopes, when you brake, the track slopes away and towards the inside. That makes it very, very difficult to brake into correctly. And when you're in the corner, you've got to lean over like this in the car. It's really not easy. Not at all easy either is the question of which tires to run. The poor grip, the sometimes slippery asphalt and the notoriously unpredictable weather pose tricky setup questions for the teams. Clearly, tyre compound is key. Yet, out on the track, there's also a great need for drivers' touch and feel.
Nurburgring is a maximum downforce circuit normally. It's also normally cold and wet. It's a high-speed corner track, so the compounds can be normally between soft, but normally most of the corners are soft. But because there are some high-speed areas, they tend towards the medium side, and it's a real challenge for the drivers there.
After this corner, the 5.1 kilometer lap ends with the final chicane, the second opportunity to overtake. Or it's flat out again back onto the main straight. And now a look at the current championship standings. In the Drivers' Championship, Michael Schumacher makes an impressive comeback and gains several places after his victory at Imola. So Ferrari makes it up into the top 3, with Renault still dominating. In a moment, Niki Lauda and his spectacular accident in 1976. But now a German sportsman who learned go-karting here at the Nurburgring. He's one of those drivers who've never been handed everything on a plate. So far, he's always had to fight for a drive. Now, in 2006, after BMW and Williams separated, the German is driving for the BMW Sauber F1 team, and finally has a contract that goes beyond one season. It's certainly very special for me. On the one hand, because I'm tied to the team for a relatively long period, in comparison to recent seasons at least, and on the other, because I hope that in a couple of years or less we can be up with the best in a position to win races. At BMW Williams, he established himself as a top driver in 2005. Pole at the Nurburgring and 2 second places. Heidfeld's one of those drivers who seldom makes mistakes, have the feel for being able to adapt their cars perfectly to every track. This feel that I have something that it keeps getting underlined by my lap times. Heidfeld started racing karts at a young age. In the following years, he was to win the German Formula 3 and FIA Formula 3000 championships. By then, he'd long since resolved to become a Formula 1 driver. I started go-karting when I was 8, so it was just a short time later that my target became Formula 1. After his Formula 1 debut in 2000 with Prost, Heidfeld moved to Sauber in 2001. But although he was constantly faster than teammate Kimi Räikkönen, the Finn got signed up by McLaren as the new Silver Arrows driver and not him. While Räikkönen challenged for the championship with his top team, Nick Heidfeld generally had little success, and later with Jordan seemed bogged down in the no-man's land of Formula 1. But at the last second, he got to drive with Williams on a trial basis. About a year ago, I didn't know where I'd be driving next year, whether I'd be staying in Formula 1 or which team I'd be going to. But then I had some really good results, especially at the start in the middle of the season, and was therefore also in a good position from which to conduct negotiations. And luckily, too, I got the drive that I most wanted to have. At Sauber, alongside former world champion Jacques Villeneuve, Heidfeld now has a 3-year contract. A new team with old roots. For Heidfeld, not new territory. I was with Sauber for 3 years, from 2001 to 2003. I also know BMW very well from last year, so it's a bit of a special situation for me, and a very nice one. Nick Heidfeld, not a man of great words. No scandals, no headlines away from the track. Heidfeld, the sports nut and family man, yet always focused on this one goal. He's got 3 years at BMW Sauber to realize his dream. Heidfeld's not yet in the running for the driver's title, but it's precisely that he aims to change. Coming up in Safety Focus, Big Brother is watching you. But first in Techno, the safety car, past and present.
Nurburgring. 5,000 miles. 4 days. 86 hours. Non-stop. Most cars never finish. Yet one manufacturer has dominated this race for years. Porsche.
In fact, the first safety car in Formula One was born here on the Nurburgring, the Porsche 914. The prototype was designed jointly by Volkswagen and Porsche in 1968. A car powered by a 6-cylinder mid-mounted engine, making this a fast, agile vehicle with excellent road handling. So good that it aroused the interest of Herbert Linger. Now 77, Linger began as an apprentice with Porsche in 1943. Later became a race engineer and enjoyed many successful years as a touring car driver himself. He had a vision, and the 914 was precisely what he had in mind. It was high time back then that something was done. Hardly a race went by without some sort of serious accident and drivers getting injured. It was simply vital that we looked at what was possible, what could be done to provide help at greater speed in the event of a crash. Speed, that was the key advance made by the 100 horsepower 914-6 GT. With its arrival, all was set for Linger's idea of a safety team. In 1973, the 914 appeared for the first time in its official look, and Formula One was interested.
In Hockenheim,
Eccleston sent 2 people over to Hockenheim, and they were so taken by the project, by the idea of a mobile system of controlling track safety, that he sent us a letter straight away asking us to work with Formula One. And that was the start of our international involvement. The safety car in those days still combined several jobs in one. At the front, tools with which, if need be, drivers could quickly be freed. At the back, a large extinguisher that could smother a fire for around 2.5 minutes with foam. It saved lives on countless occasions. It was incredible what could be got into this car. The safety car then made its Formula One debut in 1973 in the race in Canada. What was high-tech then looks different now. Since 1996, sports car makers AMG have been Formula One's supplier of choice. The key requirement for a safety car today is to be extremely fast. Its job is limited to taming the Formula One pack at times of danger. The man charged with this task is Bernd Mailander. His regular place of work is at every Formula One circuit in his safety car. As talking is not possible, communication with the drivers is achieved by other means. It's driven out onto the circuit with this splash light, then of course with these yellow or orange lights. This light means absolutely no overtaking. This vehicle, the safety car, may not be passed. We let the drivers know when they're allowed to overtake by using the green lights, one pointing forward and one at the rear. Then the drivers know they can overtake the safety car. As I said, you can use these lights to control an entire Formula One field. Mailander's current 2006 vehicle is AMG's CLK, seen before the start of every Formula One race, but hopefully not during it. Time for a short break, but we'll be right back with all the key facts on the European Grand Prix. And in Safety Focus, we reveal the jobs behind race control. Don't go away.
Allianz. Insurance and Asset Management. Allianz. Insurance and Asset Management.
Welcome back to Inside Grand Prix. Coming up, news and facts. But first, in Safety Focus, keeping an eye on everything that moves. Race control. Maintaining a clear picture of events. That was the aim even in the early days of motor racing. The race organizers tried even back then to record times, to give out race positions, and to steer the sport down an orderly path. In short, to keep races under control. Race control, using pencil and paper, the naked eye, and a wind-up telephone. But down below Nurburgring Castle, times have changed. The view today is of an ultra-modern race control. In the tower above the pit lane, an entire team works at dozens of monitors, providing backup for the race director.
The
race director is generally here, as this is where you get the best overview. You can see the entire circuit. From the way we can control the cameras, we're able to see absolutely every detail of the track. We can replay pictures, move in closer on them, and view them 4 or 5 times if there are any issues to debate. The technology is really impressive. Every little movement is closely watched, using cameras that can zoom and pan. Every breach of the rules, like unfair overtaking, gets punished.
Race control to Williams, please come in.
Digital recordings enable fast access, and anyone who finds something hard to believe can see it again as clear as day. For me, race control always used to be a total disaster. It was always very negative. I used to have to go up to see the stewards, the self-important Blazer Brigade, and hear what they had to say about something or other I'd done wrong. Usually it always ended up with me being relegated down the order. Something always used to go wrong.
Irgendwas ging immer schief, also das war immer eine Katastrophe.
The wild young things need to realize, you see, that race control really do monitor their every move. There's a whole network of contact strips all around the track. On top of that, cameras wherever you look. Yet they're not just there to catch drivers out, but serve track safety too. Race control maintains constant contact with the safety car and the 250 marshals around the circuit. As if anything happens, the reaction has to be quick. If race control registers an accident, they immediately ask the marshals how bad it was and whether the race should be stopped. As soon as feedback comes, the race director decides which flag to show, to ensure that flag signals, such as no overtaking, are then heeded. This is also monitored via a transponder in every car. This total monitoring is absolutely vital.
Of
course, it's very hard for the race director to make a decision if he doesn't know what's happening on the circuit. However, if he can see precisely what's happening at every corner, we're not just in relation to the leaders, but to all the cars, then he can make the right decision. And such decisions are incredibly important, as they can decide the entire race and make the difference between winning and losing. It's therefore an unbelievably difficult job that they do up there. The technology is very, very important, and at the Nurburgring it's particularly good. To keep a clear picture certainly requires a high degree of technology, for everything happens in fractions of a second. And with 22 cars on the track, race control is bombarded with a real flood of data. But people's safety is at issue, so the people here work hard to ensure this safety and to keep the race under control. Now in Legends, Niki Lauda's fateful race in 1976. It's August the 1st, 1976, the German Grand Prix at the Nurburgring. 150,000 spectators in attendance. In fact, a race like any other. But for Niki Lauda, all was to change that August the 1st. Beforehand, due to safety concerns, the Austrian had said he wouldn't race. But in the end, he did. And on the Bergwerk section of the circuit, all his fears came brutally true.
I
don't have any memories of pain, only of death, really. I could feel it approaching and tried to defend myself against it. I can still remember that, but the pain itself, that was secondary at that moment, where the problem had become so great. Hans-Joachim Stuck waves down the field. Other drivers stop and try to help. The horror of the day is palpable. It touches the nerve. I didn't suffer any breaks, other than the fact that I had left my ear lying there on the track. But you can live and hear perfectly well without an ear. Of course, people make jokes about it, but the important thing is that you come to terms with it, because if you don't, and someone makes a joke about the way you look now, then that will bother you. Approaching the scene of the accident. Confronting the past, recalling that day 30 years ago when so much changed. August the 1st, 1976, the day that marked and changed Niki Lauda forever. Emotionally, it's the pictures that everyone knows that come back to me, as I've only ever been able to see it on TV and actually have no memory of the whole thing myself. As far as I can remember, I don't think back then there were any crash barriers. And somewhere along here I drove, or rather flew, onto a rock. Then I ended up in the middle of the track, and if Mosario and the other two, I think it was Guy Edwards and Brett Lunger, hadn't come along then, I'd never have survived, because I'd have been in the car for 55 seconds in 800 degrees heat. They pulled me out at the last second, and that's what saved me. I'm amazed myself that I kept looking at my hand, which was apparently hurting. John Watson was holding my head, and I asked him what my face looked like. He said, just like before, which of course wasn't true. But I've no recollection at all anymore of the communication here with the other drivers. That was probably a shock reaction from the accident. If it had lasted 5 more seconds, I'd probably no longer have had any eyes, or something else would have happened. My lungs were at their limit anyway, from breathing in fumes from all the plastic parts that had caught fire. If it had taken a couple of seconds longer, I'd have been dead. 39 days later, Niki Lauda climbed back into his Ferrari and sensationally took 4th place in Monza. His fight for the Formula One crown carried on. And now for our news and facts. The Scuderia Ferrari is beaming again. The crisis has been mastered. The race and victory at the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari has silenced the critics' voices for now. But it was the qualifying that made for the greatest pleasure. Schumacher claimed the 66th pole position of his career and thus broke Ayrton Senna's legendary record. In Imola, of all places, Schumacher now finally holds first place in even this last Formula One statistic. Here's a small riddle. What requires 30 trucks, several hundred tons of materials, and 4 days and nights of assembly work? That's right, Formula One's largest motorhome. 40 people erected it, well, 41 really. The new Red Bull energy station, fit for Toro Rosso.
It's really a hard work to do it, but it's an unbelievable thing. It's like, it's better than living in my house. This one is much nicer.
Mark Webber seemed a little out of his depth at the beginning of the Lorenzo Bandini Trophy Award ceremony. After Schumacher, Raikkonen and last year Alonso, the Williams driver received this year's award. It's awarded every year to an exceptional Formula One driver. Webber turned on his charm by way of thanks.
This is like a second home for me when I come to Italy. I love being here, I love the food. The women are fantastic as well.
The breaking point before the Dunlop hairpin worries the Brembo engineers most. The drivers break down from 290 kilometers per hour here and aim for the ideal line at optimum speed 2 seconds later. The brakes are hit going downhill, which makes the rear axle light and prone to swerving if you brake too late. 4.5 G act on the body. That was Inside Grand Prix. See you next time for the Spanish Grand Prix.
This program was brought to you by Allianz, your global partner for comprehensive insurance and asset management solutions.